Welcome to Striking Gold, the Mother Lode Landscape. I'm Levi Flores. He's Jeremy Hurtado, and we have Danny Scott with us. Not today. In spirit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. This week in the Mother Lode League, it was week number 1 in league, in which we had 2 league matchups, 4 teams battling it out, and the 5th one playing on a Saturday. That was Amador. Just because Bret Hart doesn't have that varsity team means that the varsity teams need to find other matchups, and that's where Amador started this week in their first league week, as we will call it. And we'll start there. Woodland Christian visited Amador to the blue turf, and what we had guessed last week was not anywhere near what had happened. We thought Amador, with their record, with what they've been able to do and where they're peaking right now, would get a very, very strong victory. Wasn't the case. Woodland Christian, the D7 school, really showed up in Amador and said, hey, blue turf or not, we're going to show up, we're going to show out, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Woodland Christian, the second straight week, Amador had a top-ranked Division 7 team. Last week they were upset Stone Ridge Christian. This week, not so much the case. Amador, 252 yards total offense. Woodland Christian had 439, and really, Woodland Christian jumped out early, 32-0, midway through the third quarter. Amador turned the ball over 4 times. Just not a good night. It was cold, it was wet. Maybe that helped lead to the turnovers, but the scenario is this. Amador's lost twice. Both times the key's been turn the football over. They've had 4+ turnovers both times. So taking care of the football becomes a prime importance to Amador if they want to continue winning football games, and then they jump in the Mother Lode League this week against Calaveras. It could be the factor in determining who wins a football game.
4 turnovers for Amador. They were all in the air, all interceptions, and what you can expect mostly is 4 turnovers to be interceptions. Not all 4, but just 4 turnovers in general. You expect them to be interceptions because fumbling the ball is a lot harder than throwing a ball and having it be 50-50. And that's one thing just with Amador's passing offense, that interceptions are bound to happen, and you just hope that you don't have that many at one time. Amador's only score was in the third quarter. Woodland Christian, very explosive. First 2 touchdowns were over 50 yards, which is pretty insane when you think about it. When you look at the videos of those touchdowns, Amador couldn't tackle. Yeah. They were there. They should have stopped that ball 10-15 yards into the play. 3-4 Buffaloes missed and just couldn't stop it. Plenty of plays over 20 yards, like you said, 439 yards of total offense, 7 touchdowns in the game, 3 for turnovers, 7 turnovers in the game, 3 for Woodland Christian, so you'd expect Amador to come back and say, hey, we may have had 4, but they also had 3. They just couldn't convert.
No, absolutely. And like you said, Woodland Christian just took advantage of the opportunities. Amador didn't. Bottom line, it was kind of a shock because Amador's defense has been pretty good throughout the preseason games or non-league games. Maybe they had just kind of a hangover from the week before upsetting the undefeated team. Who knows? What we do know is, like I said, they start league play now. They got league games the rest of the slate. So should be interesting to see how Amador responds this week against Calaveras.
That final score was 45-7, Woodland Christian beating the Amador Buffaloes. We both had Amador winning, so unfortunately no points will be awarded for a system. You had 42-14, I had 48-12, so very close in regards of the points. I don't know what we didn't see, but Woodland Christian definitely saw it.
Hey, respect to Woodland Christian. Like you said, they came out, they played, they did their thing, and then they run a real difficult system to kind of defend. So props to Woodland Christian, big win for them in the D7. Should keep them up in the top 1, 2, 3, depending on how things go the rest of the season for their playoff push.
And that brings us to Argonaut at Sonora, the first league matchup that we have this year. Pretty exciting getting back into league play, especially with the last year of the MLL as it stands. 5 teams, 1 title, and Sonora is looking at that front runner. 49-0 final score over the Argonaut Mustangs at home.
Yeah, absolutely. This was homecoming for Sonora. And they pretty much just came out and dominated from the start to finish. We had this game on NorCal SportsTV, myself and Mario Ramos called the game, and it was like I said, pretty much Sonora from start to finish. Sonora came out, ran the ball all over Argonaut. Offensive line did a great job. Ryan Gibbs, Jackson Ludwig, Michael Jennis, Derek Crozy, and Chance Davis just overpowered Argonaut's offense, our defensive line, and Sonora just ran the ball all night long. Had 1 passing touchdown. The rest were through the ground, and then they actually put their backups in, scored again in the third quarter. and it was running clock in the third quarter. It was one of those kind of nights at Sonora, homecoming festivities. So as far as Sonora goes, everything was perfect. Argonaut had struggles from moving the football. When they had a big play, they'd have a turnover, or they'd have a penalty right after that and kind of negate everything. So it was a struggle for the Mustangs. Doesn't get any easier next week for Argonaut. They got Somerville on Friday night this week, so that's going to be difficult. Sonora gets a bye because they couldn't find a replacement to fill in there for the Bret Hart game, so their varsity gets a bye. And I know it's not exactly what Sonora wanted, but hey, they come out 1-0 in league. Argonaut comes out 0-1, and then again, they go home and face Somerville, which is going to be another difficult task for them.
No fourth quarter scores in that game. Sonora and Argonaut, like you said, running clock. It's hard to really score in that, as you know, you run a play and then the next play is a minute off the clock. So you have maybe 12 plays in the fourth quarter in total, maybe.
Yeah.
On top of that, Sonora 14 points in the first quarter, 21 in the second, and 14 in the third, and just kept piling it on. Yeah,
and it was over by halftime. Once the festivities were over, it was basically no more drama of what was going to happen throughout the night. The offense came out, started scoring the first drive of the second half. Then they left, and then the backups got to come in and play the whole second half, which was good for Sonora to develop some depth, and went down and scored again. So it just, like I said, it was a bad night overall for Argonaut. Great night for Sonora. Now they get to sit back and then enjoy a week off and get ready for their next league opponent.
Final score 49-0, Sonora defeating the Argonaut Mustangs. Jeremy, you had 49-7. You thought Argonaut might be able to do something. You were correct on the Sonora score, getting 7 touchdowns, but unfortunately Argonaut did not find the end zone. I had 56-0, just from years past watching Sonora defeat the Mustangs and just take control, do everything they can. I expected another score in there, honestly. Like, even if it's the backups, it doesn't matter. You know, you kind of expect them to find the end zone just because of their ability to find the open holes.
Yeah, and then they could have. I mean, Sonora had a touchdown call back earlier that they didn't score. They had chances to make some plays. And the second team probably could have been, you know, if they were really trying to, probably could have pushed the issue. But they really didn't. They didn't really try, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you always got to try. But they kind of let their foot off the gas and just kind of let the clock roll and slowed things down in the second half. And yeah, Argonaut, I was hoping for them to get a touchdown just to kind of get my score correct. But they struggled. Like I said, they had a couple big plays. When they did, they turned the ball over at the end of that big play, and so it was just kind of one of those nights for the Mustangs.
So with you having 49-7 and myself having 56-0, we're both 7 points away from the exact correct score. So we'll both get 1 point for having Sonora being the victor, but unfortunately no one's that much closer on the actual score, so no extra points awarded there. And that brings us to Calaveras at Somerville. It was also homecoming in Tuolumne, so we had 2 homecomings in the county itself. Somerville, they showed up, they did their thing. I was at that game along with Danny Scott, also on NorCal Sports TV. Go back and watch it anytime on demand. But Somerville's defense did not allow anything. When they started that game, Calaveras got the ball, and it was stop after stop after stop. I don't think they had a first down maybe in the first quarter,
yeah,
honestly.
Midway through the second quarter is what the notes I got from it. So
yeah, so the Somerville defense just did everything they could, but Calaveras, they still show that they can run and play football. They had their backs, they were making the plays, they were getting out there, but Somerville's defense was a little bit faster and a little bit better than their offense, and that's what stopped them from doing anything. Also in Somerville, I'm not sure how much this made a difference in the game itself, but kickoff was at 7:53. That was the official start to the game. There was senior night, there was homecoming. Cheerleaders were in between games too, so they just kept pushing back every little thing, which made kickoff 53 minutes late. Did Somerville take that into effect and say, hey, we want to get out of here, it's homecoming, we want to win and just get out? Maybe, and probably, but that's what ended up happening. Somerville did score a defensive touchdown too with Tristan Barajas. They've only had 2 defensive touchdowns on the year, both of them coming from Tristan Barajas, one by interception, one by fumble recovery. Officials were down by 1 as well, so they had a smaller crew, couldn't really push everything together as fast as they wanted to. That didn't play a part in the game. If it was a close one, maybe you can make an argument for that, right. But they did their best, so that they took their time and did the best that they could. Calaveras, like I said, has players in rushing. They have just players in general that can really do things on the football field, but hopefully in the upcoming years they can really bring it together and push it as a team. Somerville seemed to be more focused on the defensive game as well, that I noticed. 35 points. They've been averaging just over 42 per game. and 35 points against Calaveras. Really looking at it, they were just making stop after stop after stop. Sure, the Reds did get into the end zone, but it was all about that defensive game. And the offense was kind of just, hey, let's get out there, let's do our thing. We're going to run our basic offense, and then when we finally get to the end zone, that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, and then you bring up a great point, because I kind of watched the second half of it because we got home. We got home way earlier than you guys did.
Yeah, thanks.
From our game, but I was watching some of the second half, and it seemed like Calaveras had an opportunity about midway through the fourth quarter to get down. They had a chance to score again, and then the defense for Somerville just came up and said no, not having it. Now there was a couple of Calaveras miscues in there that helped them out as well. But they pushed them back and kind of just ended the momentum Calaveras had built. And so again, I didn't get to see it the first half. I saw the Barajas touchdown. Actually, just happened to flip over it while we were at commercial break. Saw him take it to the house. Barajas got 3 times, so that was a huge thing too. Great night for him. But yeah, it seemed like Somerville's defense just had the answer every time Calaveras started to get a little bit momentum going. They'd either create a turnover or Calaveras would cause false start, holding, something like that. And then, like I said, late in that third quarter, early fourth quarter, whatever it was, Calaveras had the ball inside the 5-yard line, didn't score, and I thought that kind of pretty much sealed the deal.
Final score was 35-7 Somerville. Jeremy, you guessed 35-20. I had 49-6. If I knew it was going to be more a defensive game, I probably would have been closer to that score as well. But Jeremy, you were just 2 points closer to the official score. So you get 2 points and I get 1 just for guessing that it was Somerville. So on the week, you get 3 points and I get 2, and you still in the lead for the season.
As it should be.
As it should be. Well, Sonora gets a bye this week and will return against Amador the following week, but we do have 2 league games coming up for us. Amador at Calaveras is the first one. Amador comes in at 4-2, Calaveras 2-5, and it's the Buffalo's first league game.
Yeah, and I think Amador's going to look to bounce back here. Like I said, league opener for them. It's the second time they've had to bounce back from a disappointing loss. The last time it was against Union Mine. This time, obviously, losing to Woodland Christian. And I think that it's just going to be a close game, I think. Calaveras, still, their offense doesn't seem to be quite clicking as the way as we kind of expected it to, or at least I expected it to at the beginning of the year. So I think it's going to be a battle. I think this, with the coaching staffs know each other really well just because they've been around the league for a while, even though Mosa's taken the helm the first year this year. I kind of see this being a battle to the end. It's one of those things where it could be. I have it as a game of the week because I think it's the game that's going to be closest, obviously, than the 2. But I really think it's going to be a tough battle between Amador and Calaveras, and then one of them is going to get their first league win and kind of set themselves up for possibly that momentum shift that they needed, and the other one's probably going to see their season take a turn for the negative side. So we'll see how that plays out.
And I absolutely agree. What I saw from Calaveras in the Somerville game is that they're not a bad football team. They're a good football team. They're just playing really tough opponents. And we saw that through the preseason. We knew that they didn't do themselves favors, and we've said that before on the show.
Right.
Then facing Somerville, getting a touchdown, and now going against Amador. From what I've seen with Amador, they click really well some days, and then they don't so much the others. So if they play their average football game, I think Calaveras will give a shock to Amador, but the Buffaloes will still give it a run in the end. Calaveras 0-1 in league, Amador's passing versus Calaveras' run. That's Absolutely. What it comes down to. And as long as both teams stay away from that turnovers, or they're at least even in the turnover margin, I think Amador will still pull it off, but it'll be close 28-14, and that'll be determined in the fourth quarter.
Really? Okay, I have Amador 28-14 as well. So I guess we're just going to split that one.
I kind of want to change my answer, but I don't know which way to go. I do believe Amador.
All right, okay, I'll change mine. I got you.
Are you sure?
Yep, I'm going to go Amador 28, Calaveras 21.
Okay, that's fair, and I can honestly see that happening.
Yep. I really do. I feel like Calaveras will find a way to get some points on the board. So I gave them 14. I'll give them one extra one because they're playing at home. So yeah, 28-21 Amador. I still think Amador gets the win. I think Amador's going to come out and create some issues on the passing side against Calaveras' defense. But I do think Calaveras is prepared for this. They played Stone Ridge Christian. They played some other teams that throw the football a little bit. So I think they're going to be ready for Amador. I just think that Amador has a couple more weapons than Calaveras right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's going to be a close game. I wish honestly, we were able to broadcast this game because I would want to be there.
It'd be a great game.
It could be a one-score game. It could be coming down to the final minutes. There could even be overtime. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. Amador could come out and crush 50 points to nothing, and Calaveras could also come out and win by a couple of scores too. But 28-14 is what I have, and you changing your score 28-21, that would probably be the way I would go as well if I were to change my score, but I'm glad you did instead.
Yep, I got you.
That comes up to our final game of the week. Somerville traveling up to Jackson to face the Argonaut Mustangs. And Somerville comes in 5-1, Argonaut 1-5. It's Argonaut senior night. Somerville is 1-0 in league, Argonaut 0-1.
Yeah, and we get to broadcast this game, so we get to go over there and see their brand new field. Get to see the Jumbotron again.
Yep.
Loved watching that. I love the facilities at Argonaut. Even though it's like a mile and a half walk from the locker rooms. But the rest of the facilities are beautiful there. Like I said, I can't wait to see the new stadium, new turf. All that being said, I just don't think Argonaut has enough to keep it even close against Somerville. Somerville's rolling, their offense is doing their thing, their defense is one of the best in the league. So I just see this as being a situation where Somerville can score whatever number they want against Argonaut on Friday night. And Argonaut has a tough time moving the football, and I don't think it's going to get any easier for them this week. So, unfortunately for the Mustangs, I think it's going to be another difficult night. I have it Somerville 56, Argonaut 0.
Okay, I like that score a lot, and there's multiple reasons for it. And I obviously, since I broadcast Somerville every week, I talk to the coaches a lot, and the coaches have been having issues looking at the Max Preps rankings, in which we know it's not official. It's all going to come down to the section, but they don't like how they're a 5-1 team and they're at the 8th spot in D6. With the new rule changes that we talked about a few weeks ago, it's definitely different. But with 5-1, and you look at who's above them, Somerville, their strength of schedule, the teams that they've played should be a little bit higher. I mean, they've dropped down to 8 after just being at number 6. So with that, I think Somerville's going to do their best to outscore Sonora's game against Argonaut, so that when it comes into effect and it comes into those strengths of schedules, how many points they scored, that it'll put them higher than what maybe Sonora could have been there as well. So by scoring more points against a common opponent team, it's going to get them that better ranking. So I like that score of 56-0, although I just a little more modest, 49-0, and just tie up that score because I know the coaches, they don't want to hurt a team either. So they're just going to go out there and play the game and score 49 points.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily a situation like I think it's just Somerville has too many weapons. They got guys that can score from all over. I mean, we've seen it in the past. Like, you got multiple running backs that can score anytime they touch the football. I expect some kind of special team score from Somerville just because they do a great job of doing that as well. So, yeah, and then when their backups come in the later part of the game, I think that they're still going to be effective because they have, again, weapons. They have multiple guys that are going to come in. And at some point, you can't just keep putting different guys in. There's going to be guys that are going to score. And unfortunately for Argonaut, I think that's going to be the case this week against Somerville, is that you're going to see the Bears have depth, and it's going to cause some issues.
Yeah, and one note that I do have for this game is that Argonaut has only scored in the second and fourth quarters this season. They don't have a lot of points, 47 total points for them, but they've only scored in the second and the fourth quarters. Well, Somerville also allows the most points in their games in the second and the fourth quarters. It's not a lot.
Yeah, and that's kind of deceiving too, because you get the backups in there in the fourth quarter.
Right.
They give us some points. Somerville's the number 1 scoring team in Division 6, and I don't see that taking a backseat this week. I think that they're going to put points on the board and probably do it in a hurry and probably jump on Argonaut in the first quarter.
Yeah, and just that stat alone, I'm not saying it's going to change anything, but it is something to look at and say, hey, Argonaut, if they do score, it's probably going to be
late in the game
in these two areas.
Oh, I agree completely.
Yeah. So Amador at Calaveras, Somerville at Argonaut. Those are our league games of the week. Sonora will be back next week against Amador, the Buffaloes, which will be a fun matchup as well. And I'm actually looking forward to that one, see what the Amador Buffaloes can do against the top-ranked team in the MLL. Me too. I think it's going to be an interesting situation. Sonora's defense has been really good. They haven't been really tested through the air. And our Amador is going to do that. So we'll see how that plays out. Can they keep Sonora from scoring? That's the question I have. Is their defense got scored upon a bunch by Woodland Christian? So was Sonora going to see that and go, we can do that too? That could be the situation. It could be a high-scoring game.
It's at Sonora, so again, it's going to be difficult to come into Dunleavy and upset the Wildcats at home. But Amador has an offense that can kind of score some points, so we'll see.
Any changes in the power rankings? You changed it last week. For me, I don't know if I ever changed mine, or honestly, I don't remember what my last power rankings were, but Argonauts at the bottom and Calaveras earned a lot of respect for me this week against Somerville. Despite getting stopped, I just saw a really good game from the Somerville defense. So even though Calaveras is going to stay at number 4, they're still a few steps more ahead than Argonaut than what I originally had.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the same way. Sonora, Somerville, Amador, Calaveras, Argonaut. I think I had that last week as well. And then nothing really changed from what I see, and I kind of expected what we saw from Calaveras. Strong defense, not enough offense to create problems against Somerville. Argonaut, struggling offense. Defense had no shot to stop Sonora, so I kind of expected that at the bottom. Amador is the one that we just, like I said, we haven't seen yet. The Animal Low League game, so that still puts them in the middle, and then Sonora and Somerville, I think, are the top 2 teams in the league, and I don't think anybody can argue with that.
Yeah, it's going to most likely come down to that Sonora-Somerville game unless Amador or Calaveras can upset Sonora. Amador and Somerville would be a really good game, too, and that's up at Amador, so that gives a little extra edge to them, see if they can take them down. But, Jeremy, last thoughts for us this week before we head into league week number 2?
We're getting late. I mean, already, because you only got X amount of weeks in league, and now we're in week 2. Things start to shake out after this week. I think we'll have a pretty good idea of who's in the playoffs safely, who's on the bubble, and who's needing help to get in. And that's kind of the way it turns out as you get into those last couple weeks of the league, is you're looking at who do I need to win? Who do I need to help us out by beating somebody? Who do we got to beat to take care of our thing? And so as a coach, that's what you're looking at is, hey, we got to win this game, and we're also kind of starting to look at the scoreboards a little bit and say, hey, who won that game over there?
Yeah, and we mentioned this during the game on Friday too, like what the matchups looking like currently. They just changed on Sunday, so we already have different matchups that way, and we won't know until the Sunday before playoffs. So
absolutely.
We have to wait until then, but we can kind of guess what could happen.
No, absolutely, and I kind of look forward to that last week of the season. That after that is because we're going to get to see some teams and matchups that I think that we haven't seen in a while in the playoffs, and that'll be interesting.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy, once again. Thank you, Danny Scott, for being here in spirit.
Shout out to Danny Scott. He joined us today. I appreciate that, as he's flying across the country to go hang out with his friends in Fordham. But we brought you a Danny Scott replica.
It's life size.
Yes.
Well, that's it for Striking Gold, the Motherlode Landscape. Join us next week. Next Thursday is when our episode will come out. And also join us tomorrow, Friday, for the Somerville game at Argonaut. We'll both be there. See ya.